Alright, let's get started. Waited a couple of seconds to, we just finished trial part. We just hit the last to be continued, the previous to be continued screen. We know how this works by now. 24th October, 11:53 a.m., the Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Ah, the Knight Errant himself. Oh, have you been watching from the gallery, Mr. Scholes? I've been on the edge of my seat the entire time. Courtroom trials are fascinating affairs, as a spectator at least. I'm glad you've been enjoying yourself. I had to ask, what on earth is going on? It makes no sense. What's this professor business all about? He doesn't look like any professor I've met before. Who even is he? Ah, of course. You were in Germany already 10 years ago. Yes, the professor. When I discovered he was the one who had been abducted, a sense of foreboding stirred within me. But who knew the monster would come knocking at your door? My heartfelt sympathies. As it turns out, Woodman Zeitz is even more intimately tied to this case than any of us realized, isn't he? Yes, how true. This great friend from university in the dock. And now, alas, look at the killer who took his esteemed brother's life makes an appearance too. I imagine even the shrewd Mr. Reaver failed to foresee that kick in the teeth. An extraordinary move on your part, my dear fellow, to throw that in front of the man. It may have sounded deliberate. I can't help feeling that this professor case is really very puzzling. Oh yes? In what particular manner? Well, there's Mr. Trevor, Dr. Seed, and Lord Van Zeeks. It seems that everybody in the trial has a link to the case somehow. Yes, in fact, I alone am not a member of the set. Although that leaves me as an empty set, all alone with no intersection to any other. Excuse me. Excuse me. Dr. Seed. Ah, Dr. Courtney Seed, nay Stevens. Good day to you. Hello, Sholmes. That was very shrewd of you. What particular killer, pray? You requested that 10-year-old autopsy report from Gregson, didn't you? Why would you assume such a thing? Because Gregson told me. To think it's been 10 years. 10 years in the laboratory wielding my scalpel. I smell nothing but corpses and disinfectant. A policeman on the jury had a lot to say about you as it happens, Dr. Seed. And I've accused you of being complicit in what happened. I'm hoping you'll take the stand and tell the truth about what really happened. That certainly won't be possible. Lord Van Zeeks won't be summoning me as a witness. Lord Strongheart has forbidden me. Lord Strongheart? The Pandora's box you were warned about is the Professor case. But please don't make the mistake of thinking you'll get any information out of me. But attempting to hide from the truth, that's cowardice! I've always felt crime in the way I see it. I have no regrets, none at all. And that's all I came here to say. So, good day to you. She mentioned it too. This Pandora's box. Whatever does it all mean? There's really no cause for concern, I assure you, when the trial resumes. The meaning will become all too apparent, whether you'd like it or not. Huh? Now then, I believe it's almost time. I must make my way back to the public gallery. The edge of my seat awaits. I think maybe you're enjoying yourself a little too much. Ah yes, one word of warning before I get over. If in the course of the trial this afternoon you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone. To the bitter end, you understand. Do not falter, whatever may come to pass. Alright, I understand. Thank you. Good, I shall be myself scarce then. I noticed a bar of caramel earlier, so I shall be gnawing on that as you gnaw away at the truth. Wait, you bought your own caramel bar? Huh? What that warning for Mr. Jones really mean, I wonder? It's said about whatever may come to pass. It's time for the final chapter, then. I'm determined to find the truth, no matter what. '24th October, 12:40 p.m. at the Old Bailey courtroom. Why is that still here? In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready and able to continue? And the prosecution is ready, my lord. Yes, my lord. The defenses were also ready. As the court is aware, the case under our scrutiny began with a damaging incident at the Great Exhibition. Yet now we find ourselves embroiled in the details of a convicted felon who was sent to the gallows a decade ago. This trial certainly defied all expectation, as it seems to be the fate of all trials in which this news is involved, my lord. So then, let us begin our exploration of the defense's assertion that the Watts work was cardinally involved in this matter. After the defense drops a save to save scum. Lord Van Zieks. My lord. Are we still awaiting the arrival of Madame Tussmans? Not at all. She's in the antechamber, so to speak, ready to be summoned. Very well, bring in the witness. At once, my lord. Bailiff, show Madame Tussmans to the stand. Things are much more, a lot more intense. If Trevor is responsible, and as I'm sure he is, it means he must have had an accomplice in Dr. C. And what connects the pair of them is the Watts work. Yes, the model of the professor. That's the key. The key to link between these otherwise. That's the key to the link between these otherwise unrelated individuals. It's a tenuous link admittedly, but present, it's all we have to go on. State your name and occupation for the court, please.
My name is Meralda Tussmans. I'm a waxwork artist. I'm the proprietress of Madame Tussmans' Museum of Waxwork. She will have to pardon me for working as I testify. The normal exhibit must open very soon.
Oh, so he finally gets a statue, does he? Now there are two of them in the world.
Oh my! What expression is she carrying onto that face?
A number of days ago, a particular waxwork model was stolen at your museum. Can you confirm this?
Oui, that is true. At first, we believed it to be kidnapped.
A waxwork model? Kidnapped?
Yes, my lord. There was a demand for ransom long left behind by the culprit. However, according to what I have just been told outside the courtroom, that was not the true reason. I understand it was utilized as a substitute for the body of another victim?
At present, this is no more than conjecture proposed by the defense. This is the victim of the case in question, Mr. Odie Yasmin.
But of course, I know him well. He is part of my odious personages exhibit. I detest to say what is evident, but Mr. Asmund does not resemble the professor at all.
Yes, but perhaps our faces are very similar.
Are you suggesting that we should see now the masked visage of the professor? I have here the key, but it is strictly forbidden to open the lock.
Or alternatively, you could just open the lock and we can skip ahead. This is absurd.
Pardon?
I don't know what face you've carved onto your fancy figure beneath that mask, but clearly it won't be that of the actual killer. Indeed, the man's identity was never made public after all. The trial took place in a closed court. The proceedings were strictly confidential. The condemned man was summarily executed. His identity remains a closely guarded national secret. There is no possible way that a repository of tawdry exhibits could get its hands on that information.
Well, Thomas, it would seem you are unaware of the Tuspel's principles.
What principles?
The family Tuspels has always prided itself on sculpting its models à la perfection. Every detail, including the visage, is fashioned with complete fidelity. Et voilà, our principles. There is a well-known legend about the Tuspels waxworks from the time of the French Revolution. A member of the Tuspels family is said to have made a waxwork of the queen who was executed. Wait, that is true. It was a century ago now. I believe that the queen's face was carved in the minutes following her death, actually at the guillotine site. You are correct. It's another on display today is in the House of Horrors. We Tuspels will stop at nothing to obtain a faithful replica of our subjects.
Dear me, somewhat disturbing tenacity of purpose.
It is the only way to obtain truly lifelike representation of the subject. And it has been my family's secret for generations.
Do you mean to say that beneath that mask?
Oui, the true visage of the killer is there.
This is ludicrous. It's out of the question.
The professor spread terror throughout Great Britain. As a result, the Madame Tuspel's special exhibition remains extremely popular even today. The killer emerging from his own grave. It's a sight to behold. You should come.
I think, madam, it would be beneficial to hear your formal testimony on this matter. You will explain every detail of this macabre model and your personal involvement in its creation.
With pleasure. The special exhibit in the House of Horrors is based on a rumor that shot down sighting in London. An impression of the visage was taken directly from the corpse in accordance with Tuspel's family principles. I enlisted the aid of the grave digger and created a mold for the head in the cemetery just before the interment. I gave myself until he gave me a secret. I was there for a very long time that night. As time approached, I was very worried that I could be discovered.
The gravedigger? The man sanctioned this?
Oui, I will do all that is necessary to achieve true resemblance. The true resemblance my family is celebrated for. Aside from keeping the audio from breaking. because no one has that power. Nobody else do. And the gravedigger, what harm did it to him?
So you truly saw it. The face of that monster.
Naturally, he was aware at the time that his identity was a secret. But Tuspers would not be Tuspers if we did not insist on absolute fidelity to our sculptures.
I don't believe this. I myself have seen the special exhibit at your museum, madam. A truly blood-curdling scene in which the murderer is emerging from his own grave.
The scene depicts was the subject of many rumors in London 10 years ago. I have here a newspaper from the time. Especially the witness mentioned in this article. It was the most detailed account of what happened. It was the most detailed account of what happened, as reported by the eyewitnesses who saw it.
10-year-old article has been added to the court record. Man rises from the grave. It's too absurd for words. Newspaper. The tale of an eyewitness to the alleged resurrection of the professor from his grave on the night of his execution. Well, I can't actually examine this in further detail.
The public enjoy absurdity, man said. That is why I have reproduced the scene as carefully as possible in my museum.
It's the last from that exhibit that was stolen some days before the Great Exhibition, wasn't it?
That is correct. It's a professor you see before you here.
Most puzzling. Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination. This last or at least jabber to Dr. Seeth. There has to be some reason for that which hasn't come yet to light. Or yet come to light. But I'll find it. I'll get to the bottom of what really happened. I'll prove that Dr. Seeth and Driver were in on this crime together. Saving.
Hold it!
And that rumor would be...
It's in our tale now. One that no longer would ever forget.
Oh, right, I know just what you're talking about, I think.
Of course, it couldn't be anything else.
Yes, that sort will never disappear.
The tale of the condemned killer rising from the dead. That is the central attraction of my House of Horrors. The rumor was whispered all over the city, and it was like this. It was in Newgate Cemetery behind the prison the dead of night after the execution of the killer. The entire professor slid back, and the stone slab covered his tomb and emerged from his grave. A young man who witnessed this felt a scream welling up inside him. But an instant later he heard an ear-splitting gunshot from over his shoulder. The bullet struck the emerging corpse and he fell motionless once more. The scream came from its way from the mouth, and the other young witness turned and ran for his life.
We haven't heard anything about a gunshot before in this. The corpse climbed out of his own grave?
And then somebody shot him? Who was it? Nobody knows even today. But remember, it was just a rumor, perhaps nothing more than a ghost story. The good people of London, they love stories like this. That is why it was in every newspaper across the capital.
But it was, or was it just a story? I mean, this is exactly the scene that can be seen today at your museum, isn't it?
Oui, the special exhibit was modeled on that very illustration. For a while afterwards, the contents of that article were reproduced in every newspaper imaginable. Madam, might I say something? Please go ahead, mademoiselle. When something is described as a rumor, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's entirely made up. I believe that often rumors contain elements of the truth. I see that people from the East are just as the people from Europe. Can we be sure, for instance, that the professor's execution was successful? It is not possible for the dead to come back to life. Sorry? 10 years ago, I was there in Logate Cemetery. After the criminal known as the professor was killed by Henry, I took a wax impression from his visage from the corpse just before it was interred. So I can assure you, the man was dead.
I see. It would certainly appear that the condemned man suffered the intended fate.
Hold it!
Is that true of everyone's work in the museum then?
It is, assuming the subject is dead, of course. I just had to cooperate in a similar way. I have letters from imprisoned criminals all the time, you know.
What sort of letters?
When my time comes, please make a Watsburg of me. Komeka.
No.
My museum is famous, monsieur. To be made into a Watsburg is an honor, and for some criminals a symbol of status even.
Because nothing says hardened criminal better than Wats.
And it is thanks to one killer in particular that my museum has gained such popularity in London. I put the star of this special exhibit, of course, the professor.
Who's formally claimed to have captured, but by taking an impression from the actual corpse.
There are no exceptions to the principles of Tuspels.
Gravedigger.
Hold it!
Surely that's illegal, isn't it? It would seem the proprietress of this repository of knowledge is blinded by monetary greed.
It had nothing to do with money. The man was part of London's criminal history. That is why I had to sculpt him, to record this history. It is the raison d'être of the Tuspels Museum.
But the man was convicted in a closed court and sent for his immediate execution. But surely nobody but the members of the judiciary present know the killer's true identity.
I assure you, behind that mask is hidden the true face of the professor.
Do you realize what you're seeing? The professor's identity is a national secret. So was what was on those 2 encoded discs from the last game.
I understand. And now that the truth about the special exhibit has been revealed, it must perhaps close.
Of course it will. As you'll ruin your entire museum if you don't tread very carefully, madam.
That could be another interesting chapter in the history of my family, don't you?
So 10 years ago, on the night of the professor's execution, you took a wax impression of his face from the corpse?
Oui, exactamente.
that's interesting. We're just noticing the plus and minuses, which are very much in line with the, I can't go into the character profiles. Trevor. Yeah, the pluses and minuses.
Hold it!
You were there for longer than you expected to be?
I had some difficulties in capturing the subject's form correctly. As I removed the mask, the mouth of the cadaver fell open, and I had some problems with the chin.
Dare I ask?
The man had been dead for a short while already, you see. His muscles were relaxing, and consequently his chin would not align itself correctly. Oh dear, what a horrible thought! Under normal circumstances, I would have had an assistant with me. However, that night I was alone, and as a consequence, I missed my preferred window of time.
What do you mean?
When I take the impression of a visage of a cadaver, I always wait until 3 hours after death.
Why 3 hours? Is that amount of significant?
It is because of rigor mortis.
Rigor mortis?
It's the name given to a phenomenon that occurs in recently deceased bodies. As a rule, 3 hours post-death, the muscles in the body begin to stiffen. By approximately 10 hours post-death, the entire body is completely rigid and inflexible. And then, from that point on, the muscles slowly start to revert to their relaxed state. That is often used to estimate the time of death when the body is discovered.
Oh, that was an education, if a slightly scary one.
As the Mademoiselle says, visual mortis commences 3 hours after death, and it starts in the jaw.
I see. So that's why you wait.
Before that time, the mouth falls open, and it is very difficult to do my work.
It's getting hard for me to do my work with all of this talk of corpses. I wonder if that information the courts just heard from Madame Tussmells. We'll say it's significant. The information about rigor mortis that you just mentioned shared with us, would you mind including it in your formal testimony? I believe it would be significant, you see.
Of course, I do not mind at all. I can't help but feeling after this latest topic. The atmosphere in the courtroom has become extremely grave.
Oh! This is no time for jokes, Miss Susato. Madam, kindly amend your testimony as discussed. Also, penalty to the defense for their terrible joke.
Yes, sir.
Before the onset of rigor mortis. Death by hanging confirmed at midnight, June 17th. Rigor mortis being the phenomenon you described whereby the corpse suddenly becomes stiff after death? I think you said that it starts at the jaw about 3 hours post-death. Is that right?
Oui, c'est ça. Of course, the exact duration depends a little on the season.
I don't know, as a waxwork artist would be so well versed in the subject.
No, that is elementary knowledge in the field of legal medicine.
Well, I had no idea about it. Maybe I won't admit my ignorance about forensic science.
I can ask my father to give you a very simple primer if you'd like.
I think corpses should be your domain. I'm not good with them. Also, her father is on a boat.
Oh dear, I'll do my very best.
say that dawn was approaching? What was the time of day then, approximately?
I could not see. When at the cemetery, my senses of morning light was becoming visible.
The execution took place on the 17th of June, which had the earliest sunrise of that year. Indeed it did. First light would have been at around 4:40 in the morning. It really is early.
The fact is, I had very little time, so I finished my work in a half hour. It was necessary to complete the impression and bury the body before daybreak, of course. If someone discovered me, then it would be a catastrophe, so I had to hurry.
Is it me, or does Mr. Sholmes seem to be taking shape more quickly now, too? You certainly appear to go to extraordinary lengths for your work, madam. I wonder, is what you said particularly significant? Madam, those details about how long it took you to complete the sculpture in the early sunrise, did you include them in your testimony? I believe they may be significant.
Of course, if you would like me to. You're quite right, Mr. Naruhodo. It's intriguing. A sunrise at 4 in the morning would be absolutely unimaginable at home, wouldn't it?
That's not quite what I meant by significant. Kindly amend your formal testimony then, madam.
With pleasure, my lord.
It was before rigor mortis set in, but it would have been after, right?
Hold it!
For us. If it was a half hour. Did you have reason to believe you might be discovered when the sun came up or something?
In particular, the great figure managed to keep a little secret, of course. But with some morning light, I knew that the warden from the prison would commence his patrol of the area.
Couldn't you just paid off the warden too, then?
I had already paid the grave digger, as I said. You cannot buy the silence of everyone, or the secret is no longer a secret, well?
The sunrise was at 4:40 a.m. that day, which means that would have been around 4 when you began your sculpting work.
Oui, that must be correct. That is when the great digger gave me the signal to come out of hiding.
So that's all I have to go on, which is a lot.
What's your feeling, Mr. Naruto?
For some reason, Dr. Steve went along with the driver's plan. Now, if that's really true, then the professor's the only other thing we know of that links the pair of them. So I feel sure that Latsert must be a clue to this mystery somehow.
In that case, we must use this cross-examination to uncover exactly what it means. Otherwise, the jurors will should have their leanings and the trial will be over.
I agree, but interestingly, uncovering what the professor has to do with all of this means more to Lord Van Zieks than anyone. That's the impression I'm getting, anyway.
Yes, as do I.
After all, he has a profound connection to the professor as well. It's representing the autopsy report here.
Objection!
Wrong one. Alright, I lost the 50-50.
Objection!
Madam Tusswells, I have here an autopsy report that was filed 10 years ago now. It confirms the death of the professor following his execution at the gallows.
And is that a problem?
I believe it is, because your testimony and particular detail in the report completely contradict one another.
What?
Are you going to explain yourself, my Nipponese friend? According to her testimony, Madame Tussfuss was creating her Wat's impression just before dawn. And at that time, rigor mortis had not set in. Am I correct so far, madam?
You are, yes. As I said, there's different 3 hours of a sign of rigor mortis, 2 to 3 hours after death. But the man's shin was limp, so he could not have been dead for a long time.
But on the other hand, if you look at Dr. Seeth's report, which quite clearly says the following. Death by hanging confirmed at midnight, June 17th, June. No. If the professor indeed died at midnight that day, then by the time you were sculpting his face, rigor mortis would have already set in.
Wait, yes, you are right. The chin, it would have been completely stiff.
In other words, this report is wrong.
Objection!
No coroner makes mistakes when recording the time of death. The very idea is absurd. In that case, there's only one possible conclusion. The execution didn't actually take place at the stated time. Impossible! Order! Counsel, this is beyond folly. Not only do you indict the author of the report, Dr. C, but you also implicate members of staff at Barclay Prison where the execution took place. Extraordinary. Not my
Objection!
My learned Japanese friend appears to have overlooked one very crucial fact. What fact? The professor died that night, without question.
He did. Of course he did. I moved the man's jaw with my own hands. It was no...
Yes, the professor died that night. But what if he didn't die at the gallows? Didn't die at... Are you insane? What exactly you're suggesting did happen in that case? It's almost impossible to believe, but it would explain the link between Dr. C and the professor, and that one other person of interest. Dr. C, the professor, and Drebber? I have evidence that will explain exactly what I'm suggesting happened that night. Counsel, present the evidence at once. The evidence that allegedly explains what really happened on the night of the professor's execution. Time to, time to save some. I think this is correct. Because we saw the blood already.
Take that!
What have we here?
Objection!
Before considering the night of the execution, I'd strongly advise the defense to concentrate on what is happening right now in this courtroom. What? Wait. Okay, well, that's... Reload the game. You're... the game's wrong. You're right for the wrong reasons. I don't know what evidence I would have other than this newspaper then, right?
Take that!
What happened that night is written very plainly in this newspaper article. Executed criminal returns in the dead of night at local cemetery. You're suggesting it was a corpse coming back from the dead now? We were suggesting he wasn't dead at all. Well, if this article is to be believed, yes. The professor, assumed dead following his execution, emerged from his grave and was killed again.
Objection!
Don't be a fool. It's simply a rumor published by the gutter press. Can you be certain of that? See, that's why I was trying to show off the camera, because the blood stain on the camera would confirm it. Are you serious? The point is, as the article says, there was a witness to what happened. My word. Yes, indeed.
My sweet. The young who stumbled into the cemetery by chance that night.
Objection!
Of course there was a witness. The story didn't write itself, but obviously the man made it all up. And in any case, this was 10 years ago now. There would surely be no finding it. On the contrary, we all know this witness well.
What?
Are you suggesting, counsel, that you've identified the person in question? Do you know who claims to have seen these utterly incredible events take place? Yes, my lord. In fact, you could say that he's right here before my very eyes. You will substantiate your latest claim now, then, counsel. Who is the alleged witness of this staggering scene from 10 years ago? Enoch Driver. Wait, why does it say reviews? Oh. You know, just in case you forgot.
Take that!
The man in question is Mr. Enoch Driver.
Trevor?
The previous witness. The special exhibit in the House of Horrors at Madame Tussauds Museum of Wadsworth recreates that decade-old scene in great detail. And the condemned criminal emerging from the grave, and beside the tomb, a young man with a lantern stumbling upon the terrifying sight. And that young man is a 10-year younger Mr. Enoch Driver. Ordar! Surely not, counsel.
Trevor was there in Lowgate Cemetery. What is all this talk about Mr. Trevor? Is the name significant?
Of course, Madame Tussauds doesn't know, does she? Yes, it's extremely significant, madam. To your situation as well, in fact.
What situation?
The theft of the Professor Wadsworth from your museum some days ago was perpetrated by the very same man.
No! But that would mean...
Madame Tussauds. It would appear you know the name Enoch Driver.
Oui, yes, I know it. But from long ago in the past.
What?
Oh my!
Good gracious. Explain yourself. Tell us everything you know.
Yes, of course. The story of the young man and the terrible night he witnessed in the cemetery 10 years ago was published in every single newspaper in London and throughout Great Britain. However, in all of the articles, the witness is simply described as a suffering young man. No details were published about his identity. His name was never revealed. That is, apart from in one newspaper. The Daily Circus. It is a paper from which comes in the article and already shows a quote.
You're saying that his full name was only publicized in that article? Goodness me! Yes, here it is! The university student who experienced this shocking event is Mr. Enoch Driver, a disciple of science at the University of London and a resident of its student dorms. Unbelievable!
When I read the article, I went to meet with the man. His discovery of the content criminal coming back to life in the cemetery in the dead of night will make a perfect exhibit for my House of Horrors, whether it's the truth or not.
I see. So you went to meet Mr. Driver in order to discover the Wadsworth of the man, did you?
It's a lament. He was studying science at the University of London in those days. He was just a brave student. He paid him £5 for model for the artwork. And since that time, it has been in my museum to recreate the scene from the tower of the cemetery.
So, 10 years ago, a young man appealed to the public about an extraordinary event he'd witnessed. A criminal who'd been put to death re-emerging from his grave in the middle of the night. But the public treated his claim as nothing more than an amusing anecdote that was soon forgotten. 10 years later, the same man steals a waxwork model of the executed criminal, ostensibly to use as a body double for the victim in the case we're studying here today. Even though the waxwork's build is a poor match for the victim, and its face is obscured by a mask. So the question is, why would the man do such a thing? Which brings us to 3 days ago, when the birdcage crashed into the Crystal Tower. If the birdcage had in fact contained the body, not the body of Mr. Aspen, but that same waxwork, the coroner from Scotland Yard who investigated, Dr. Seath, would have noticed immediately. And yet, she submitted this autopsy report for the victim, which the court had seen earlier. Why? Because the waxwork was that of the professor. Is that what you're saying? Dr. Seath put her name into a document confirming the death of a condemned criminal who was still alive. A criminal whose apparent resurrection was witnessed by Mr. Drebber. And that misconduct was a deadly secret the coroner would do anything to protect. Which is precisely when Mr. Drebber used that particular waxwork as the body double. Arrgh. My lord, this court must summon Dr. Seath to the stand. The defense is determined to find out exactly how the coroner and Mr. Drebber are connected. But according to the missive I received this morning through the prosecutor's office, Dr. Seath is unable to participate in these proceedings. Is that not the case? She told us so herself, didn't she? Lord Van Zeeks will be summoning me as a witness. Lord Strongheart has forbidden me. Lord Strongheart? The Pandora's box you were warned about is the Professor case. But please don't make the mistake of thinking you'll get any information about it out of me. Something happened on the night of that killer's execution. 10 years ago. Sorry, I yawned. And surely nobody would want to get to the bottom of that more than Lord Van Zeeks. The prosecution calls for the instructions in the missive to be scrapped. But Lord Van Zeeks, the missive was issued from the Lord Chief Justice.
Objection!
The assigned prosecutor has the final say on policy in any particular trial. In other words, me. Yes! Let Enoch Drebber and Dr. Seath both take the stand together. Order! 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 Very well, will uphold your request. Bailiff, send a subpoena with immediate effect addressed to Dr. Seath of the Forensic Investigation. The woman is compelled to attend on Her Majesty's orders. Alright then, Enoch Drebber and Dr. Seath. if they weren't concluding with one another, this crime could have never been committed. I'm just a stone's throw away. I can feel it. The truth behind all of this is about to come out. Thank you for your attendance at such short notice, Dr. Seath.
I'm disappointed in you, Lord Van Zeeks. You've completely betrayed the agreed policy of both Scotland Yard and the prosecutor's office.
Betrayal is not in my nature as long as the truth isn't compromised. If it is, if there's even a hint of wrongdoing, no matter who it concerns or disgruntles, I will pursue the matter to the bitter end, as would any prosecutor with assault. Mr. Dropper, you took the victim's life by means of a machine that you constructed in your workshop. And Dr. Seath, as the investigating coroner, you were the first on the scene to examine the victim's body. Sorry, I yawned. It's been a long day. It is the belief of the defense that you collaborated with each other and you were both complicit in this crime.
And where's your evidence?
At present, we have no definitive evidence, but we do have a very significant clue.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking, of course, about the waxwork. This model of the killer known as the Professor was sentenced to death 10 years ago. Sorry, I keep yawning.
You don't need to tell me. I witnessed the man's execution with my own eyes and officially pronounced him dead.
That remains to be seen.
Is that so?
According to the newspaper reports from the time on the night following his execution, the killer came back to life.
Psst. Don't waste my time.
And the sole witness to that mysterious event was you, Mr. Trevor, wasn't it? If what you saw in the graveyard that night 10 years ago wasn't some chilling fiction, but reality, it would make you privy to a very great secret of Dr. Seed's. A secret so profound it could compel the coroner to agree to collaborate in your evil scheme, in fact. Mr. Trevor, tell the court, tell everyone the truth of what you saw that night in Lowgate Cemetery. So he was the student who saw it. You can see the resemblance actually, can't you? With the man in Madame Tuscal's, I mean. Surely he's not going to come... I mean, that's what he really saw, especially after all these years. He was a research student at London University, wasn't he? And a bit too clever for his own good, if you ask me. What an interesting twist. When at the time not one person would take me seriously. Yet now here we are 10 years later, and suddenly my story matters, and in a court of law too. Very well then, if everyone so wishes. Let's be frank, I'll tell you the truth of what happened that night for what it's worth. Pardon me, I yawned. So, Mr. Trevor, your testimony, please, about the events of that night 10 years ago. You will tell the court exactly what you stumbled across in Lowgate Cemetery. Yes, of course, as you wish. Saturday 10 years ago. The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say. Yes, the illustration of that newspaper was based on what I witnessed that night.
But thinking back now, I realize I never actually saw the professor. Swear out to I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist. It was all because of that newspaper article.
Wait a minute. You're claiming you didn't actually see the professor now?
Of course. You'd have to have the screw loose if you believe the corpse could come back from the dead.
But, so you're saying this article is...
Not what the paper is printed on. I think that would describe it perfectly, yes.
If the details in the article aren't true, it nullifies your argument for why Mr. Drebber and Dr. C would have been working together. So is discrediting himself to cripple my argument?
Tell me, witness. You claim to have been in the cemetery on some auxiliary business. Can you elaborate? That's right, grave robbing to be precise. As you know, the cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison. So among students at the university, I had a reputation of being haunted by the ghosts of condemned criminals.
Grave robbing, you say?
Yes, assuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. Of course, I never laid a finger on any valuables buried with the dead. So you are one of the so-called resurrectionists, a particularly unpleasant scourge on society. Actually, my fellows and I went by another name, the Repurposers. That is quite beyond me. You would invite divine retribution, sir. Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Scientist eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It cost me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. I see. Out of interest, who drew the illustration for this article? Ah, yes, that was the reporter who exposed me. He sketched that right in front of me as I described the scene. Obviously, as time ticked on, I bitterly regretted what I'd done. Claimed to have seen something I never truly saw. Foolish, very foolish.
Very well, counsel for the defense. You may proceed to the cross-examination now. At once, my lord. What the? How'd my scroll lock get turned on? What?
Hold it!
By moonlight, you mean grave robbing, you mean?
Surely you need only to look at the graveyard scene. In my appearance, to grade the answer to that. The lantern and spade.
But who on earth would want to buy a dead body?
Any major hospital.
A hospital?
In order to better understand the human body, the study of anatomy is crucial to medical science. There isn't a hospital in the world that has enough specimens to work with. Though obviously they can't openly express an interest in obtaining more by dubious means. As aspiring scientists, we research students had no money to work with, as I'm sure you can imagine. So it leads their repetitious arrangements with a hospital via some of our old some of our medical student acquaintances. We had never taken anything of value from the graves. This is all for the furtherance of science, you see. That's what they told us every time we stole into the graveyard at night, spade in hand.
As body snatching is a serious crime. If you were caught, you could expect the gravest of consequences.
We students were caught between the hammer and the anvil. We needed funds for research.
Professor Harebrant said exactly the same. I'm quite speechless at the apparent levity with which you've revealed this important behavior.
Well, if you want to know why I was there at Millgate Cemetery, that was the reason. I never expected it to end the way it did. That I regret to this day.
Hold it!
Strange having at Lodgate Cemetery, which you now deny. Not entirely. I read to visit the police at the time, you know. I was shaking like a leaf. But they did not believe a word of it. In fact, I was very nearly arrested myself.
So you went to the papers instead?
I started reading the London newspapers surprisingly. They didn't want to know either. In the end, though, it was from the gossip rise, the cataverse that came to get my story. And it spread like the plague through the capital. Gossip hungry Londoners laughed up the tale.
The story was in every single paper at the time, with the exception of some broadsheets.
And yet only 2 or 3 of them actually interviewed me personally. Most of the accounts turned out to be very interpretive ghost stories.
What about the article in the Daily Circus?
That particular term was found in my dormitory. I don't know how, but he discovered my name. So I recounted to him exactly what had happened that night.
Oh, Asman. And from your description, he drew this illustration? I didn't notice this before. Odie Asman.
Precisely. That's how I learned that the condemned man was the infamous professor. Because the reporter told me so. I had no idea myself, you see.
Newspapers only want to snoop around in matters that don't concern them. So the scene portrayed in the illusion is accurate then?
Well,
Hold it!
What are you talking about?
as I explained already, didn't I? Millgate Cemetery is the rear of Barclay Prison. And at the rear of Barclay Prison, it was renowned amongst students at the university for being haunted by the ghosts of condemned convicts. For some reason, I was scared of the graveyard at night. As a result, I was only too willing to believe that nonsense about the dead coming back to life.
But you said you actually saw it.
I said what I'd seen in my mind's eye. After all, resurrection is impossible, isn't it? You'd have to be unhinged to think otherwise. Unless, of course, there's some evidence that proves I encountered the professor that night.
I don't know. Is there any material evidence that could show that you really did see the professor? If we have anything at all, Mr. Naruto. I know. I need to present it against that irritatingly backtracking statement of his.
The point is that it was a pivotal moment in my life.
Hold it!
A young woman being Madame Tussmos, of course.
Precisely. I must say I didn't expect to run into her again like this 10 years later. As I have explained, I think it was in the impulse in the studio, and I found the man.
Yes. In the article in the Daily Circus, I think you said.
I was supposed to barely a penny to my name at the time. And the young lady put £5 in front of me.
So you readily consented to having a waxwork of yourself made and gave permission for it to be put on display.
I I did. I should sell what little I had to sell, I concluded. Wait. I remember now. I purchased something else from you that day. Mr. Pop? Did you? I can't say I remember. What was it, man? His camera. Ah. Oh yes, I made a point of taking it whenever I made an excursion into any cemetery. You took a camera with you, sir. To what end? To record the details of the bodies I disinterred. But I had no intention of visiting your graveyard again after that night, so I sold it. I see. But we still have it, myself. It is part of the special exhibit in my house of horrors. I'm very meticulous about such details. It is the trustman's way. It would seem that this is the very camera Mr. Trevor took with him to Logate Cemetery on the night in question. Yes, interesting. Nice, okay. That's what we needed. There's the evidence we needed. Hey, you remember how the professor got shot in the head? Presumably in the head?
Objection!
Are you kidding me? Did I do it on the wrong statement? I probably did it on the wrong statement. Never saw the professor at all. Let's try this again. There's something else in the... I guess there's probably something else in the, let's have a...
Objection!
Okay, yeah, okay, it's... There's some other secret hidden thing in the other statement, which is annoying. Either that or I have to press to get back to that point where he's like, ooh, do you have evidence?
Hold it!
This article, you mean? Published in the Daily Circus. Yes, somebody informed the dean that it was my name that appeared in the article. Excuse me for the hiccup. I carelessly let it slip that night after night I was digging up graves. Hardly a model student, you might say. The university's reputation was at exclusion. It was inscribably defiled, and I was expelled as a result. Mon Dieu, I had no idea. Having run out of university, you found employment in a somewhat specialist trade. Combine your knowledge of science with your knowledge of stage management to create various experimental machines intended to demonstrate never-before-seen technology. And you use those type of machines to trick the government and private investors into giving you money. Professor Albert Hairpin was just your latest victim, wasn't he? What the hell are you talking about? I have no recollection of doing anything of the sort. Ellipsis for some reason. What's Trevor up to? Why would he suddenly change his tune and recant his claim? I wonder perhaps it's because the circumstances have changed now. What circumstances? Well, if he admits that, having seen the professor emerging alive from his grave 10 years ago, Woods was a secret in Dr. Steve's past that she would desperately want to hide. Yes, of course, Trevor and Steve are working together now. If Trevor were to betray her, there would be no reason for her to continue to cooperate. In that case, there's only one way around it. We'll have to prove he really did see it. Prove he really did see the professor's corpse coming out from the dead as he originally claimed. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo, exactly! right here? So you actually saw it. Unless, of course, you have evidence. I don't know. Is there any evidence material that show it he really did see the professor? Okay, let's try saving and presenting the camera again, because I don't know if this is just a bug or what, but, like, it's very obvious we're probably meant to present the camera here, right? Actual camera he had at the cemetery, here as you go. I guess I could maybe try the article.
Objection!
It is the article. What? Sorry, Mr. Trevor, but I don't believe that. Don't believe what? Your latest claim. You did see the professor on that 19 years ago. Oh dear, we seem to be at odds, but I was there and you were not. I know what I didn't see. The illustration in this article was drawn based upon what you told the journalists that you witnessed. The figure emerging from a tomb, wearing an iron mask. Yes, when the killer was tried 10 years ago, it was decided in the close quarters room that the man would wear the mask to hide his identity. It wasn't to be removed even to his execution and subsequent burial. Not even the prison wardens were able to see the man's face. And obviously the mask was not public knowledge. So, Mr. Trevor, as you've just heard, although the student of the University of London certainly wouldn't have known about the condemned man's mask. So unless you'd actually seen the professor that night, it's inconceivable that the artist would have included the mask in that illustration. I guess that makes sense. Oh, I feel like the stronger evidence is the blood on the side of the camera from probably the professor getting shot. Order, order! Well, Mr. Trevor. It's a vile scene, isn't it, if you look closely? As I've already been at pains to point out, I was utterly petrified, which is why I had it in my head that I'd seen such a blood-curdling sight. But afterwards I came to my senses and I realized that I'd been mistaken. You're still saying you didn't see it? If you're stubbornly sticking to that story, witness, then amend your testimony to explain exactly how you think your eyes deceived you. Of course. Only happy to oblige. I can't believe he's still not going to concede the point.
Hold it!
Fellow Gravedigger? What are you talking about? I wasn't the only one to see the cemetery that night, you know. Other body snatchers were at work. Of course, when I saw one emerging from the hole he dug, my heart very nearly stopped. So that's the terrifying sight I actually saw you see. Okay, it was just another student doing equally insidious business as yourself. Many of the medical students would wear metal masks to protect them from bacteria during dissections. Clearly, the fellow was using such a mask to protect his anonymity.
Objection!
But there's no more to the story, isn't there? The article goes on to say, in the next second, a gunshot rang out suddenly from behind. The bullet pierced the resurrected man's chest, whose breath then stilled once more.
We might assume that the citizen discovered the miscreants at work, perhaps, and fired upon one of them. If a grave digger had shot someone in the cemetery, I think it might have been rather big news, my lord. Ah, yes, well, I can only assume that his death has been bolted on later on by the reporter.
Excuse me!
Madam Tussmans, don't take it out on Mr. Sholmes.
Oh la la, pardon. I was lost in my thoughts.
Would it be fair to say that Mr. Trevor's last remark was significant to you in some way?
I thought it was a little strange that someone so terrible could claim this now.
If you don't mind me saying, madam, what are you talking about?
Well, when I met you 10 years ago at your university dormitory, you recounted to me your adventures in the cemetery, no? Including the cat shop.
Stop. You might want to watch your tongue, you know.
Objection!
Have a care, Trevor. That's no way to speak to a lady. Please, Madam Tussmans, carry on.
Of course. According to what Monsieur Zerepa told me at the time, he did hear a gunshot from behind him, and the bullet hit the condemned man.
I said nothing of the sort.
No, you were very explicit about the details. That's the best the figure was wearing.
And, okay, I'm gonna start from behind, Trevor.
That's the blood that spattered over you when he was shot.
Enough! Shut up, woman! You're making all this up! That will do. Mr. Trevor? Yes? Refute the account just given by Madam Tussmans? I have no recollection of ever saying those things. Come on, do you really expect us to believe you? Control yourself, counsel. I will not permit baseless accusations in my courtroom. I have the camera, and there's a blood stain on the side of it, Your Honor. Right. Under the circumstances, I think it best that you supplement your testimony with a statement to clarify your position on this witness. Very well. Alright, I'm gonna give it a I'm just gonna try with the camera right now.
Hold it!
Oh, nope. I hit the wrong button. We're not even gonna bother with that. We're just gonna go for the camera.
Objection!
Mr. Trevor, do you remember this camera?
But that is the camera from that fateful night.
Yes, we borrowed it from the House of Horrors. It's a camera you took with you to the cemetery that night, Mr. Trevor. And is that supposed to be significant? This is the kind of camera that's rarely seen on our homeland, so my colleague and I were keen to examine it closely. We noticed the lens it sends forward on the end of some bellows. Like this.
Hold it!
What's that? There, just on the bellows. It looks like a dark red stain. That's right. It's a rather conspicuous mark here on the bellows, in fact. Good lord, are you suggesting? Yes, my lord. It would appear to be a spatter of blood.
Something that can be confirmed with a simple chemical test. Isn't that right, Dr. Seeth? It would be difficult to determine if it was human blood and not the blood of some animal. But yes, the test whether it's blood at all is simple enough.
Professor Madame Tussville's testimony was correct. And that on the night in question 10 years ago, you were spattered with blood from the gunshot wound. Well, And furthermore, you really did witness the condemned professor emerging from his tomb. There's simply no way you could have forgotten about such a traumatic experience. In other words, the only explanation is that you're trying to hide the fact that you saw the professor that night.
Objection!
But why? Why would he want to do that? Well, not for his own gain, it would seem. For whose then? Who could benefit? Mr. Trevor is obviously lying in order to protect somebody. My goodness, he's shielding someone? Yes, my lord. And clearly, it's someone who doesn't want the truth about the professor coming back to life to be exposed. Well, counsel, who is it then? Who is this witness trying to protect by lying about what he saw on that night?
Take that!
The obvious answer is Dr. C. C. Whatever do you mean? Imagine if the convict who'd been sentenced to death was not in fact killed. Imagine if that was to come to light.
What are you insinuating?
And imagine if the convict in question was the country's most hated mass murderer. If it was the professor, that would be an unprecedented.
Objection!
This is beyond a joke. Need I point out that the dead cannot come back to life? What you're suggesting that the execution never actually happened. Yes, that's exactly what it would be.
Objection!
Once a man is sent to the gallows, he hangs. No one can escape, not in great.
Objection!
But the fact is, there's a witness to the fact that the man did escape his hanging. Is that really true? If that were really true, counsel, the implications of misconduct would not stop at the supervising coroner. It would take the honor of the entire judiciary from the ground up. And it's exactly because of those monumental repercussions that Dr. Seath would consent to any demand made of her by someone who threatened to expose the secret. Even if that meant being complicit in a crime. Also, I bumped something on my desk, so sorry for that. It was picked up by the mic. You mean? I mean that Dr. C wasn't collaborating in Mr. Drebber's wicked scheme. She was coerced into collaborating in order to protect her decade-old secret. She switched the dead body of Mr. Asman with the waxwork model and fabricated the autopsy report. Lord Van Zeeks? Pray forgive my freshly filled hallowed chalice and a whole act of other discourtesies now. Goodness me! It's just the sort of tall tale you Londoners would enjoy, I grant you. An executed killer rising from the dead, a Scotland Yard cover-up, a conspiracy at the highest levels. So let me ask you one thing. What's that? If the condemned man really did emerge from his tomb that night only to be shot in the chest, who pulled the trigger and disposed of him forever? Aspen, right? Well, I have no idea
idea at the moment. We have too little information to work that out at present, I think. I couldn't agree more. The Old Bailey is no place for wild fantasies. Have you considered this, my learned Nipponese friend? Considered what? Do you realize just what dangerous endeavor it would be to coerce this woman to such criminal activity? It's tantamount to declaring war on the entire British police force and judiciary. Quite. Hard to imagine any sum of money being offered for research could warrant it. To rely on some stage deception with so much as at stake would be madness. Oh, well, I suppose. And this was no petty crime either. The victim was murdered. A man who'd already invested money in the venture and would be instrumental in future profits too. Yes, I had no reason to kill Mr. Asman at all. Are you forgetting that his death results in me not receiving a single penny? The court is already aware of the contract between myself and the victim, no. There is the contract, that's very true. The motive for the case runs deep, though. I can feel it. Using threats to force the head of the forensic investigation team to cooperate is extreme. Especially for a government grant he had no guarantee of receiving in the first place. If the government grant was the aim, taking Mr. Asman's life would make no sense in any way. Which means Mr. Trevor's motive wasn't money at all. He was just trying to kill Mr. Asman. Why? What was his motive then? Your time is up, my learned friend. I'd say you have one last chance before the jury lose their patience with the charade. Let's see if you can back up your heady proposal, shall we? How do you explain why this engineer would throw caution to the wind and threaten his own country? At this point, I'm not prepared to listen to any more of this outlandish conjecture without proof. So, counsel, present your evidence. Alright, who exactly was Mr. Asman to Trevor? There's a connection there that no one's seen yet, except for we've already seen it. I'm going to have to present 2 pieces of evidence to show what it is. Yes, my lord. Evidence that establishes a motive and explains why the witness wanted the victim dead is right here. Okay, I'm gonna save.
Take that!
It's this newspaper article, my lord. That was written 10 years ago, and every detail's been examined already. What can it possibly tell us? That journal should have never been. It's typical gutter nonsense that means nothing. Yes, on its own, it isn't particularly significant. However, when considered alongside another piece of evidence, it will completely explain your motive for wanting Mr. Asman dead. What other evidence? Counsel, you will present your supplementary evidence without delay. The evidence, which would cross-reference with this newspaper article, establishes motive for the deed. Okay,
Okay, so Asmund wrote the article. The fake autopsy report? Because Asmund wrote the article, so Asmund knew that it was a driver in the cemetery who saw... That makes sense to me. Asmund knew that Trevor saw everything, and Trevor knew Asmund saw everything. So he killed Asmund because that was a loose end.
Take that!
I think it's fair to say after your presentation of the Evidence Council, we have only half the story. Okay, so not the article. Okay, motive is...
Take that!
Newspaper. However, when considering one piece of evidence, it is one other evidence. Pierced into the chest by a sharp instrument. I mean, maybe it was this? So I think they're I think they're trying to say, hey, don't present the contract here. But maybe it's a red herring.
Take that!
I think it's safe to say we only have half the story. Okay.
Take that!
So the article is definitely this article, the 10-year-old article is definitely one of them. Because Asmund wrote that. Wait, the Wadsworth head.
Take that!
Okay, nope.
Take that!
Definitely the article. So this is definitely going not in the way I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like, oh, Asmund was the professor all along. But obviously not. Paragraph of the victim.
Take that!
Only half the story again. I'm actually not sure. Like, I get what they're trying to say. They're trying to say that he was trying to kill Asmon. I'm pretty sure. He was trying to get Asmon kill Asmon because Asmon knew what was going on, or what, or also knew the identity of the professor or something. Is it the camera, maybe? Oh, Asmon.
Take that!
Still only half of it. Oh! Wrong button.
Take that!
Newspaper. Evidence. I mean, obviously the signature is the same. I guess I could try this?
Take that!
Oh, it is this. It's this contract, my lord. Mr. Drebber, this is the contract you signed with Mr. Asmon. Yes, that's right. The very document, in fact. That proves I had no reason to kill the man. No, I'm afraid not. What? There's something very significant that this newspaper article and contract have in common. Really? And it's that common link that shows very clearly why you were so determined to kill Mr. Odie Asmon. It seems the defense has uncovered something the rest of us have missed. So, my learned friend, point out what these two pieces have in common. Where that is the link between the newspaper article and the contract.
Take that!
What these two pieces of evidence have in common is a signature. A signature? The signature on the illustration that accompanies the 10-year-old article and the signature on the contract belong to the same person. What? As the court has heard, this illustration was drawn 10 years ago by the newspaper reporter who found Mr. Drebber and interviewed him about his ordeal. If you look closely, the reporter's signature can be seen in the bottom right corner of the drawing. And if you look at the contract here, which was signed between the witness and the victim last year, you can clearly see Mr. Asmon's signature at the bottom. Let me see. Good lord, yes, they're identical. Even though it's not physically possible, actually, if you know anything about actual penmanship. Basically, the chances of you signing your signature in the exact same way multiple times are like 1 in 10 trillion or some crazy high number like that. Like, it happened, like it can happen, but it's basically theoretically impossible. It's usually indicative of forgery. In short, the journalist who drew this illustration and wrote the article published about Mr. Drebber 10 years ago, although that also accounts for being like a perfect lineup or whatever, was the victim of this case, Mr. Odie Asmon.
Objection!
But it's put to the court. Why? Why would that constitute a motive for the witness to murder Asma? Well, if you think back, you'll remember that Mr. Drebber talked about that in his testimony. Grave robbing, you say? Yes, exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. That is quite on the pale. You would have invite divine retribution, sir. Yes, well, I think I suffered enough retribution enough. The Daily Scientist eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously on my tag. Then I gave up my dream of becoming a scientist. It was all because of that, and it was all because of that newspaper article. At the time, you assumed the University of London had dreamt of becoming a scientist. However, this single newspaper article changed your entire life. Just like it also managed to change the entire flow of our audio from being good to glitched out. So, Mr. Asman used to be a newspaper journalist, did he? He did, my lord. In fact, it's a widely held belief that Asman managed to position himself at the heart of his criminal network. Thanks to the many dubious connections he made during his time as a reporter. So you had to give up on your dream and leave the university. You lost everything. Eventually you found yourself working in the field of science, but only in the shadows. And all because of that article, written by Asman. Enough! Stop this endless drivel about my life. What? Explain yourself, Mr. Trevor. Yes, it's true, I had to leave the university as a result of that article. But it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. What do you mean? Almost every student of science in the faculty was too poor to actually conduct any research. But they struggled on their hypotheses anyway. We all did, only to have them taken by vultures. Later, you knew your ideas would be stolen and patented by some wretch or another. After all, good gracious, making a name for yourself as a scientist in a climate like that was a miracle only a select few geniuses could ever hope to achieve. Personally, I wasn't one of those geniuses, so it was hardly a wrench. But being forced out of the university because of Loki was the best thing that could have happened.
Objection!
Mr. Drebber, do you genuinely believe that? Of course I do. Who's better placed to know whether I possess a talent for or not I possess a talent for science than me? I'm sorry to say, but your words don't ring true at all. How dare you? I have evidence to prove it. How are you in a position to say anything about me? I don't know you from Adam. Fine, if you think you have evidence, go ahead, show it. What could you possibly have to disprove the idea that I was happy to leave university because I lacked talent? The science trophy.
Take that!
Do you remember this, Mr. Drebber? I found it at your workshop. Is that a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science? What exactly is this trophy, Council? It's the greatest honor that can be bestowed on a young scientist, my lord. offers no higher accolade. It recognizes emerging talent and promises a bright future. Good gracious! The prospects for the future were excellent, weren't they, Mr. Drummer? Because even then, you were a genius in your field. But you lost everything. You had no more future. Your talents would go to waste. All as a result of this one newspaper article. I don't know when you realized who Mr. Asmund was, but when it dawned on you that he was the same journalist who 10 years ago ruined your life, it's abundantly clear that you had no intention of forgiving the man. The truth is... Finally, he's going to fold. And now for the coroner to jump in. Dr. Seeth. Hold it.
Fine. Clearly this has run its course now.
What?
I admit it. All of it.
What? What are you doing?
It's exactly as the Japanese man has said. I was coerced into going along with this man's plot to murder the victim. On the condition that he kept my dirty secret from 10 years ago.
No. Good Lord! Dr. Seeth, do you realize what you're saying, woman?
It's all true. That day, when I arrived at the Crystal Tower, I saw the bird cage. My heart nearly stopped beating. That memory from a decade ago that I'd done my best to bury deep inside myself.
Yeah, what's that? I guess it's the glass shard that we found.
It was the professor again, staring at me in the face. And then, before I had a chance to react, I noticed something else.
Oh, a letter?
There was a note tucked inside the model's jacket.
Dr. Seeth,
Dr. Seeth, he will go along with my plan. From someone who knows the truth about what really happened that night, 10 years ago. All the instructions were there in the note. Every detail was meticulously written out. I had no choice but to do what it said. I made the necessary alterations to the scene and fabricated the autopsy report as instructed. There was really no other choice. It had to be done to protect the judiciary. I can only apologize now.
Why on earth do you buckle now?
Why, well, there's no point in trying to hide it anymore, is there? I would have done anything to stop it coming out, even collaborated on murder. But the great lie about that execution 10 years ago has been exposed. Whatever happens, I'm finished.
So then, Mr. Trevor, what do you say to that? Your accomplice is admitted to everything. Surely it goes without saying. You admit your part in it too, then? I admit nothing at all. What? Have you forgotten that the kinesis machine was ripped to shreds by an explosion? Short of me admitting to a crime, there's really no possible way for you to prove I did anything wrong. Well, that's false. You planted a bomb and admitted to it to a police officer. No! Order, order, order!
Whatever this man says, I admit everything. He threatened to expose my secret, so I went along with his plan. And Lord Van Zieks? Yes. I hope he'll accept my apologies. What happens next is in your hands, of course.
I've heard more than enough now. I hereby present the final findings of this court. This trial is not the proper form in which to pursue the alleged wrongdoings of Mr. Drebber. The defendant is Professor Albert Harebrain. Very true. It had slipped my mind. Isn't he one of your closest friends? As the court has heard, Dr. Seath has admitted to the allegations brought to the defense, thereby absolving the defendant of any possible guilt. You mean... At the present time, it is the conclusion of this court that the defendant was not involved in any wrongdoing. Does the prosecution have any objection? None, my lord.
Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo.
The gavel hasn't swung yet.
Professor Harebrain's innocence.
We're taking Sholmes' advice. If we can object, we're objecting. Oh, without further ado, then the adjudication. Unless the prosecution or defense have any other matters to discuss. This doesn't feel quite right. Why did Dr. Seath suddenly admit like that? Do it like that? That's what I'm saying. There's more to this.
Is everything alright, Mr. Naruhodo?
Like you said before, the way the trial is set to end now, the judge will certainly deliver a verdict of not guilty. Is that really what we want? What the defense should be pushing for now is further testimony.
Objection!
The defense objects to the trial ending at this time, my lord. We're gonna say down here now, just in case I put myself in the bad ending. Or in a bad ending. I beg your pardon? We demand one final testimony. What? You do realize I'm about to adjudicate in favor of your client, I presume. What are you playing at now, my Japanese friend? Why would you want to obstruct the conclusion of the trial? At this point? No defense lawyer in his right mind would do that.
Mr. Naruhodo, what exactly are you thinking?
The truth. The whole truth. In a way to bring it all out into the open. Right! Yes, in hindsight... yes, one word of warning before I go. If in the course of trial deception you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with the bone. To the bitter end, you understand. Do not falter, whatever may come to pass. I'm sure Mr. Sholmes knew. He mustn't have deduced that this would happen. Yes, I'm here in court to advocate for my client, and to secure an acquittal. Obviously. But that's not all. I believe that I have a duty to the court to pursue the whole truth of the case until every last detail is laid bare. And that is why the defense calls for further testimony from Dr. C.
Testimony from me? About what?
About the nature of your collaboration with Mr. Enoch Drebber.
In case it's escaped your attention, I've already admitted to everything I did. The whole truth has already been revealed. So stop wasting everyone's time. As his lordship has made very plain, your client will get the acquittal you wanted for him. There's simply no point in protracting this business further with another tedious cross-examination.
Objection!
Pray forgive my careless handling of that hallowed bottle. I slipped. That's what you call it? That's what you call it? What is your objection, Lord Van Zieks? The prosecution also calls for supplementary testimony from the witness.
Don't be stupid!
If there is more to this case than has yet come to light, then I will join my learned friend in pursuing the facts until the bitter end.
You'll what?
Lord Van Zieks. This is most irregular, to say the least. However, as the prosecution also calls for it, I will uphold the request. This is the one we need to save over instead of pushing for immediate acquittal. Or because we didn't push for immediate acquittal in the other one. Or rather, because this is the one we did push for immediate acquittal on. Dr. C, you will testify for the court, explaining the full extent of your involvement in the murder apparently committed by Mr. Drebber.
Aye, very well.
Wadsworth.
It all began at the scene when I saw the Wadsworth and the note tucked inside its jacket. The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instructions, was in the experimentation stage. The body had to be arranged in certain ways to implicate the defendant, which was my job. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene appropriately. The truth about the execution 10 years ago is a state secret of the highest level. I had to protect it.
So I was right. The stage and machine were specifically designed for this deception.
So it seems. All in all, meticulously prepared. You did well to see through it. You're a very shrewd boy.
So kind of you to say.
And what about this autopsy report then? All I did was record the location of the bodies being in the Crystal Tower instead of under the stage. That's all? That's a terrible corruption. Only my team learned of the deceit, and then only under my explicit instructions. Nobody else in Scotland knew anything about it, I assure you.
You must be thankful for small mercies, I suppose. Well, I do believe that testimony has clarified everything. Your Honor, I would like my cross-examination, please. There's no particular need for cross-examination, I would say. No, I disagree. I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. Just look at that expression of Dr. C's face. It's the defense's right to a cross-examination, or to cross-examine any witness following testimony.
What is it about you Japanese that makes you all so doggedly persistent?
Very well. If you so desire, counsel, proceed with the cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Alright, here we go. This should be the end of the trial, finally. From what you described before, it sounds like the note was anonymous. Do you have any idea of who was behind it?
There are very few people in the know what really happened 10 years ago to start with. But anyway, I never heard of this engineer, so no, I had no idea.
And despite not knowing who was behind the plan, you went along with it?
I had no choice. Protecting the professor's secret was my only concern.
With the horses bolted now, the sealed door will never shut again. Scotland's reputation will be immeasurably damaged as a result of all this.
Yes, thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. I'm well aware of that.
So as I understand it, what you found in the bird cage was the Wadsworth model. Where then was the victim's body? Actual body was in the experimentation stage. So you knew about the special construction of the stage used to carry out the trick then?
It was quite obvious what had happened with the victim of the Wadsworth.
So you switched the two over, didn't you? In other words, you recorded the victim's bodies having been discovered in the Crystal Tower and the Wadsworth.
I wrapped it up and sent it by carriage to the specified address at the specified time.
And why were you given such directions?
Presumably so it can be recovered by Droga and returned to Madame Tuspel's.
I see. And then you put the birdcage back on the experimentation stage?
Yes, although someone obviously made a mistake about which cage should go where. I thought I'd made it perfectly clear to the team, but still.
I suppose you were focused on the victim's body, that being a more important detail. When you say arranged, I presume you mean this?
Yes, the instructions in the engineer's notes said something along the lines of fabricate some evidence to make it clear that Harebrain alone could have killed Esmond.
So, you mean that was your doing?
I fetched Harebrain's ridiculous screwdriver from the stage and took it with me alone to the abyss under the stage where the birdcage had fallen.
Alone, Doctor?
I didn't feel it would be appropriate to involve anybody else in that particular part of the deception. There was a void under the stage where I found the birdcage lying in the dirt. I approached it, leaned down, and slowly opened it up. And then, I took the screwdriver in both hands and plunged it into the man's chest.
And then you noted that that in your fake autopsy report is a fictitious cause of death.
Exactly.
So, the actual cause of death was...
the trauma resulting from the 30-foot drop.
My word. What is it, Mr. Zato?
Something about Dr. Seaslot's statement. It's playing on my mind, that's all.
Yeah, mine too. Dr. Seath, There's really no need to shout. I can hear you perfectly well. The defense calls for you to add what you just said to your formal testimony. Oh? Which part? Supplement her testimony with his... I mean... the real cause of death, I think, right? The real cause of death being the fall of 30 feet. That part. Fine, if that's what you want. Just stop yelling, please. The prosecution concurs. Well, you will supplement your testimony now, witness. If you wish, my lord. Quite sure of that. As it was the result of a broken neck? Yes, as a professional, that was more than apparent. You never know just by looking at the photograph of the victim, though, would you? No, that's very true. Obviously not. Which is precisely why coroners are needed to determine the actual facts. Yes, assuming they can be trusted. There's no point in calling her assessment into question without evidence. Let's get back to the testimony. Very well. I'm gonna see if I can get the other part added now.
Hold it!
Just so I can see what exactly she says. Unfortunately, there's no way to fast forward through this. Opened down, opened it up. Then took the screwdriver in both hands and plunged it into the man's chest. So that's the amount of recording the stab wound as a cause of death on the autopsy report. Dipping the fall, of course. I'm sure there's something in here in this testimony. Could be appropriate. So you could also ask to choose the supplementary testimony. Have her change it. So see, what you said before about what you did to the victim's body, I believe that may be significant. So could you change your supplementary testimony to explain it instead? Very well. Plunge the screwdriver into his chest. I keep pressing the wrong button. I don't know which one it is.
Hold it!
Entire team perverting the course of justice?
My team consists of the very best investigators there are. I demand loyalty from all members. Be operate on the code of chivalry of short swords.
You aided in a bit of murder, commit perjury, and dare talk of chivalry?
It was a matter of priorities.
What?
Nothing was more important than protecting the secret of the professor. My team did what was necessary without losing sight of the primary goal. I consider their conduct exemplary. Don't concede the point, Mr. Naruhodo. You mustn't let her win.
I need a lawyer.
I'll take that silence as tacit acceptance. Now, can we move on?
Hold it!
So it's you who established our husband in this.
Yes, far easier than dissection, I assure you. No precision required.
What a welcome change.
The victim died instantly from a snapped neck. All I did was carry out the instructions I'd been given.
As unflinching as ever, no doubt.
Imagine you didn't bat an eyelid when you drove the weapon into his body. There was no need to bat my eyelids.
What else did you do to us in that? Remind the court, why don't you?
If you wish.
Hold it!
You know, like... I feel like it's the cause of death that we need. Because you mentioned earlier that the only thing she did was move the body. Or was say the body was found in Crystal Tower instead of... Yeah, let's have her change it. I feel like cause of death is what I need. Just see, you said before about the real cause of death. I believe that may be significant. So can you change your simple injury testimony to explain that? I'm sorry I'm saving so often, but like...
Hold it!
I'm quite sure of that. Was it the result of a broken neck? It was... Or it was... Yes, you know that looking at the picture of the victim. Somebody can be trusted. Assessment into question without testimony. Very well. I don't know if it's the autopsy report or what.
Objection!
Okay, it was not the autopsy report. What? Alright, it's E then R, and that's so weird.
Objection!
Okay, not photograph of the victim. Like, I may as well just reload every... Like, I may as well just reload if I'm wrong. I don't think it's the screwdriver, is it?
Objection!
I don't know what the woman to present here. Birdcage, maybe?
Objection!
That was not right. Crossbow, maybe?
Objection!
Well... The only thing I can think of... This would have to be what we did, or what she did to the body, right? In this particular case. You know what, I'm gonna... I can't think of anything else that would be relevant here.
Objection!
Right with this? Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so I guess it is what she did to the body rather than the actual cause of death. Press, get her to change the statement back over. Oops. It's a little annoying that we can't just have her add both of these to her formal testimony. Change supplementary testimony, see it before. Power change it. Both of them may be significant. Can you sever the victim's corpse where it lay in the top of the cage and plunge the screwdriver into the chest? So I see, obviously, what looks like a blood stain right here.
Objection!
Oh, I forgot to save. Whoops. I think I forgot to save anyway. Let's see. Yeah, I did.
Hold it!
Unfortunate. Alright. I just have no idea what it wants here exactly. I'm honestly not even sure what we're... Change the statement so that she stood over the bird cage.
Objection!
It's not the bird cage either. I thought the music cut out for a second. I was like... So I was like, oh.
Objection!
No.
Objection!
There we go. I've got a nasty feeling that this inconsistency points to extremely uncomfortable truth. I don't know what this is the matter, Counsel. Have you lost your tongue? I apologize, my lord. Dr. Steve, in that last statement of yours, there's just one point that seems to defy explanation. Out with it, my learned friend. Ooh, new music, by the way. There's an obvious inconsistency between your description and this photograph. It shows the victim in the birdcage following the events that led to his death.
Objection!
The court has already examined that photograph in depth. There's nothing new we can learn from it.
Objection!
Yes, we've already considered it, and that's true. But now we know the facts to be different. What do you mean? I believe we should let the defense explain. Which means save your game, buddy. Where in this photograph will we see the alleged inconsistency of the witness's statement? Is it the glass? Up here? That's like the only thing I can see.
Take that!
The point that makes no sense is... Nope. Alleged inconsistency with the witness's statement. The blood is running down his shirt! Oops.
Take that!
Look closely at the blood stain on the victim's chest. It clearly extends in a downwards direction towards the man's feet. And why is that significant, counsel? If the victim was stabbed moments before the kinesis machine was set into motion, that's entirely the victim was stabbed in the moments before the kinesis machine was set in motion. That's entirely expected. Ah! Of course! No, that's not what happened! Exactly, my lord. Dr. Seeth made it very clear in her testimony just now that the point at which she stole Professor Harebrain's screwdriver and stabbed the victim was after the grand deception was set in motion, when the birdcage had fallen below the stage out of sight. From the shape of it, it's clear that the birdcage would have fallen onto its side after the 30-foot drop. And the victim had really been stabbed whilst in the inside the birdcage in that position. Blood from the wound would have spread out equally in all directions. For it to have formed a longitudinal appearance we see in the picture is inconceivable. Given that the victim's blood seeped vertically downwards from the wound, it must be the case that when you stabbed Mr. Asman, he was standing up. In short, Dr. Seeth, your latest testimony was a total fabrication. I knew it. I was right. Now I've identified that contradiction, and there's only one way to explain the facts. We've all been under a great misapprehension here. I have no idea what Rinosuke... Rinosuke is smarter than me at this point. What? I'm with Ramses. What? What sort of misapprehension? Dr. Seeth. You claim you were coerced into helping Mr. Driver as a result of the note he left in the Waxburg. You claim that you made changes to the scene of the crime to implicate the defendant. And you claim that you altered a fake autopsy report to cover your tracks. But one of those claims is an out-and-out lie. Because the question of what the blood stain really tells us has only one possible answer. If that is the case, what is it, man? Counsel, you've clearly struck upon a revelation. Now tell the court what it is. Which part of Dr. story is shown to be a lie by the contradiction in her testimony? It's the fake autopsy report. Okay, so this is confusing because I think this is saying that her fake autopsy report was a lie. You say that you examined the body and wrote this report based on your findings. But that's a blatant lie, isn't it? I'm sorry, but I simply can't fathom what you're attempting to say. Okay, yeah, no, that was bad wording. Hold on, we'll see if I get penalized for this. The truth is, you had subordinates do the work for you, and they offered to... No, yeah, no. Stabbing of the victim? The answer is very simple. If you consider the sequence of events, if, when the victim was stabbed, the blood from the wound seeped downwards as it did, we can be sure that the victim must have been either sitting or standing upright at the time. But as you rightly pointed out, the birdcage would have fallen on its side when it fell beneath the stage. Yes, it would. Which tells us that the victim must have been in that position of his own accord.
Objection!
That's impossible. The man was dead, remember? No, that is the misapprehension. When the birdcage fell from the stage into the void below, it must have hit the ground with considerable force. But Mr. Asman didn't die in the fall. He probably lost consciousness for a while, but when he came around, he got to his feet to climb out of the cage. Just as Dr. Seeth appeared. If the victim was in fact alive at that point in time, it changes everything. Mr. O.D. Asman's killer wasn't the defendant, Professor Albert Harebrain, nor was it the mastermind behind the stage trickery, Mr. Enoch Drebber. It was you, Dr. Courtney Seeth. Order! 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 Can this possibly be true? Have you been taking me for a fool? It was you, wasn't it? You killed him? You thought that by admitting to being an accomplice in Mr. Trevor's scheme, the trial would end before you were accused of a far worse crime. Cold-blooded murder. Oh, do shut up! You're so desperate now, you're making all this up. As if I would do something like that. Oh, she's heated. She's mad now. Look at her panting like that. Or
Objection!
I assure you, the defense is not desperate, Doctor. Mr. Naruhodo has established the facts using evidence and logic alone. Logic? Don't make me laugh. Sadly, your logic has a gaping hole in it. What? What do you mean? I'd have thought it was obvious. A motive, boy. You're lacking a motive. What possible reason would I have to kill Mr. Asman? Asman was involved in any number of criminal activities from coercion to theft to murder. But there's no known connection to Dr. Seeth there. There is one bit of motive. I'm rather relieved to say that it does seem somewhat far-fetched. True, there's no obvious motive, but there's still something in the back of my mind. I feel sure that I've seen somewhere that hints to why the coroner might have done this. Yes, I might have tampered with the crime scene and concocted a fake report, but murdering someone for no reason is a very different story.
Objection!
No. When you question what possible reason you could have for wanting to kill Mr. Asman, something did come to mind. What? What was it, Counsel? Enlighten the court at once. Yes, we saw it yesterday, didn't we? Something that seems strange, but we had no reason to suspect it at the time. Oh, the 500 scalpels, right? There's a particular object that explains why Dr. Seeth would have wanted to kill Mr. Asman. It's a scalpel, or rather, scalpels. Did you say scalpels? Ah! It would appear the word has struck a chord, Doctor.
You! Come on, out with it!
It was yesterday when we visited your laboratory. Look at this big thick book here.
Ah, it appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think.
Oh? What is it?
It's clear that the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but, well, one entry seems rather strange.
Really? In what way?
They're buying 500 scalpels every month.
$500 scalpels a month? At first, I wondered what on earth you could be using that many scalpels for. But actually, I realize now it's not the scalpels themselves that are significant. It's the money disappearing every month from the department's accounts. Asmon's criminal organization relied heavily on extortion to fund its funding. Tracing the money from the forensic investigation team's account to find out where it was going would be extremely straightforward.
Ugh!
10 years ago, when Mr. Asmon was still a journalist, there was this article about Mr. Drebber. He may well have stumbled upon information as he was researching the story. Report information relating to Dr. C's darkest secret that he would use to rack money from her for the next decade. Her darkest secret? Good lord, you mean? I don't know what happened on the night of that execution 10 years ago. But clearly, the opportunity to rid yourself of that menace was too tempting to pass up. So in the end, you weren't coerced at all, were you? You did it entirely of your own free will. You stabbed Mr. Asmon in the heart with all your might. To silence the blackmailer who knew your dark secret forever.
You'll never understand. None of you. What we've had to keep covered up all these long years.
There's very little of the machine remains after it was ripped apart by the bomb. The truth of this case can never be properly established unless you speak out.
And if you decide not to, it's very possible that Courtney C. will escape punishment for her crimes. Please, sir, own up to what you've done and tell the court the truth about what happened.
10 years ago, you told the truth, and you were robbed of a bright and successful future as a result. I can certainly understand your bitterness and your consternation now. However, this is surely the chance you've been waiting for, to sever the hold that fate's had over you all these years. Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. I mean, really. It's the addle-brained mock scientists that are the worst, you know. They don't recognize the fact that they don't have any talent. They can't even get that right. And so they end up chasing impossible dreams, having unbridled faith in their abilities. They go on and on about their wonderful hypotheses, their stupid eyes shining like a child's. They make me sick. I can't abide their foolishness. Careful, Mr. Drebber. I was particularly pleased with the kinesis machine. It made for quite a show, didn't it? So you admit it? You admit that it was nothing more than a sham made for the purpose of killing the victim. Yes, I admit it. I did it all in the name of revenge. Revenge for the future that Mr. Asmon's article had deprived you of 10 years earlier. But the revenge you sought didn't stop at Asmon, did it?
That is where that very particular wordsworth comes in. Yes, I see.
The condemned convict you saw rising from the grave in Lowgate Cemetery 10 years ago. If your account of those events was all true, then obviously Scotland Yard couldn't afford to acknowledge what had happened, even if it meant discrediting a bright young man and crushing any future career he might have had. So your plan required that you adopt that particular Wadsworth model in order to exact your revenge on Scotland Yard as well, or on Dr. Seath to be precise. It was a year ago. By some extraordinary twist of fate, Asmon turned up in my workshop. He didn't remember who I was, of course. He just wanted to employ my services as an engineer. And he happened to have a paper with him. An article on the front page caught my eye about the coroner who handled the bogus autopsy being appointed head of a new forensic team. When I learned of that news, my cognitive processes started to devise the plan. What a hard tale. He robbed me of my future, so I wanted to use the man's own wiles against him for revenge. And I have that rotten Scotland Yard eating out of my hand at the same time. I wanted them all to suffer the same humiliation I'd had to suffer. Your actions against those who'd ruined your future was justified as a revenge, at least to yourself. Certainly, no one has the right to destroy another's prospects, especially for purely selfish gain. And yet, in carrying out your plan, you did exactly that to someone else, didn't you? Did I? Professor Harebrain's only crime was passion for his hypothesis. He had no compunction about sacrificing his future to effect your revenge. You knew that he would be forever branded a failure and a fraud. Perhaps life treated you unfairly 10 years ago, and others' misconduct left your life in tatters. But remember this. Your own actions resulted in exactly the same thing for another perfectly innocent young man. Powering down. Reroute complete. Lord Van Zeeks, what of Dr. C? An immediate warrant for her arrest has been granted and she's been remained in custody, my lord. I presume she'll face trial in the coming days along with Mr. Drebber. A most regrettable situation indeed. She's made great contributions to her profession over the years. It really is a hard truth to swallow. What is my PC doing? I've had the little loading circle. That is a topic for some future occasion. For now, Professor Harebrain. Oh, yes? It seems there was a great deal more to your experiment than you realized. However, I think we can assume now that all the sordid details have been brought to light. This has been a very long and profound trial, but I'm pleased to say more. You are absolved of all guilt. This whole experience has taught me a very great, painful lesson. I've been I mean, me, this dedicated scientist, this devotee of natural philosophy, a bit selfish and self-centered, and above all, a fool. Professor. I spent my life thinking of nothing but my research, misguidedly believing I could do whatever I set my mind to despite my lack of talent. And the worst of it is, in the process, it caused others pain and misery. Others who are far, far greater people than I. No, Professor, that's not true. What? Don't tar yourself with the same brush as Dredger. What happened was his doing and his alone. This outcome is his fate, not yours. You're not to blame in any way. Lord Van Zeeks, and the derision with which he referred to you earlier, calling you a fool, talentless even. The man has no idea. To believe in yourself and work your fingers to the bone to realize your dreams, that's laudable, not laughable. No one has the right to deride another for such choices. Oh. Thank you, Barrett. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. It is this court's expectation that you find the defendant not guilty of the charge of which he stands accused. I presume there are no objections. None from me, my lord. Certainly not. This trial has really made me think, but this is the right decision. It's all been proved methodically and rigorously. I have no misgivings whatsoever. Alright, it's Jonathan. I don't know what's become of the yard these days. I don't recognize the place. Very well. In that case, I hereby pronounce the defendant not guilty. Court is adjourned. It's over. That was some trial. October, 4:33 p.m. The Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Professor, what a splendid outcome, isn't it?
Oh, it is, it is. Congratulations, Professor Hairbrain.
Mr. Naruhodo, Mr. Zato, I'm truly beside myself with gratitude. How can I ever thank you enough? I'm just glad it's all been cleared up. That you realize you were just caught up in a bad situation. Right now, you know, if I had that research grant money, I'd give the whole lot to you, every penny. Well, that's very kind, but I'm just a student, so.
We don't need any financial reward. Your acquittal's more than enough.
Oh dear, what can I do? What can I do? Aha! How about this as a memento? The paper about my hypothesis is inside. Oh, just as a memento then. Thank you.
I've been wondering, Professor. What are you going to do now?
Oh my, yes. What am I going to do? My hypothesis and my great machine lie in ruins. But still, it's been 2 months since I was last in London, so perhaps I'll enjoy some sightseeing. Let's explore the great exhibition while I'm here too, and see if new inspiration hits me.
Oh yes, that's a wonderful idea.
I can't allow that. Lord Van Zeeks, what are you doing in here? sorry you had to go through that, Albert.
Well, if I'm honest, it was terrifying. You're like a great demon behind your bench there, snarling down on your prey.
You're one of the few true friends I have. I couldn't leave it to anybody else to handle the prosecution or the defense.
Sorry? Or the defense? Did I just hear that right? I always knew that you had my best interests at heart. Don't worry. How about you show me around while I'm here in town? It's been a long time since we've left university. We have a lot to catch up on.
Listen, Albert. In a few days, your acquittal will be made official. When that happens, you must head straight to Dover. I'll accompany you.
What?
From there, you'll cross the channel and make your way back to Germany. I've already purchased the tickets.
But no! Hold on a minute, Derek. What about the Great Exhibition? This is a chance of a lifetime for me. I want to look around.
No sightseeing, Albert. Give up on the idea.
Sometimes it's hard to see any worth in those eyes, Barrack.
The Reaper, huh?
Lord Van Zeeks.
What's all this about? Unnecessary precaution.
Yes, I think I understand.
You do?
Well, I was told that when you met Lord Van Zeeks at his office some days ago, he asked how Mr. Natsume was doing.
Yes, that's right. I remember him being surprised at the time and thinking it was nice of him to ask.
The point is, Mr. Natsume is still alive and well. Even though it's been more than 6 months now since he stood trial with the Reaper as the prosecutor.
Ah, you mean the Reaper's influence doesn't stretch overseas?
It doesn't extend outside London. So the Reaper is someone who's present in all of Van Zeeks' trials who is not Van Zeeks.
Those in the Reaper's sight leave their ends days or sometimes months after their acquittal. That's been the pattern up to now.
But of course, we know that both Mr. Natsume and Tina were completely innocent.
True. And perhaps that governs the Reaper's actions. The truly innocent are spared. But I don't want to take any chances with a close personal friend.
But Barrack...
Like the mustache he wears, this man should leave the country without delay. That's why I'm packing him off to Germany at once.
Right. Does your friendship package get anything to say in it? Goodness! Was this your intention all along then, Lord Van Zeeks?
In court, where people think of him as the Reaper, this man seems absolutely merciless, and yet sometimes I feel as though I don't understand him at all. It's time to go, Albert. Back to the prison for the time being.
I mean, he's human like the rest of you. He's not some demigod. Like I said, I feel like that means that the Reaper is someone who is actually present and is like a witness to all of Van Zeeks' trials, but who doesn't, but, you know, obviously it's not, the Reaper is not Van Zeeks themselves. Although, you know, people getting sick and dying from, like, illness or something like that can be, you know, explained from just bad luck. Alright then, Mr. Naruto, thank you so much for everything. I'm well, Professor. It's a pleasure getting to know you. Best wishes, Professor Hairbrain. Well, once the dust is settled, you must come and visit me in Germany. Anyway, goodbye for now.
thought you'd gone too. We have matters to discuss. Can you spare me some time? You want to talk with me? I'll be waiting in the courtroom in 10 minutes. Well, that was strange. For some reason, I didn't get that sense of impending doom as he walked away this time. The enigma Baron Van Zeeks. Please don't cut off right there. What does he want to discuss, I wonder? The answer waits in the courtroom, I guess. Here, I suppose. Here goes, then. 24th October, 4:58 p.m. The Old Bailey courtroom. Why are we both right here? So, are you satisfied? Saved a guileless scientist from a great injustice. Yes, I think so. I believe, at least, that the man's innocence could be proven. Anyway, I imagine you've been wondering where my animosity towards you Nipponese comes from. You mentioned that at the end of the last game, that you were betrayed by a Japanese person, right? Well, at first I thought you just didn't like me. I imagine you saw me as a potential shadow for an unimportant land who had no business being here. But now I think differently. You clearly know our ways. So I guess that some specific incident led to your thorough dislike of my race. Will you tell me what happened then, please? The professor. I thought I'd never hear that name in this courtroom again, to be honest.
He took your brother's life.
Clint. My brother was Clint Van Zeeks. 16 years ago, when I was still just in my teens, he was already the director of prosecutions and a key member of the judiciary. How old is Van Zeeks? Oh, I can't ask this court record right now. I looked up to him. He was everything I aspired to be. He was involved in the establishment of justice systems in foreign countries as well. There were exchange programs between Britain and other nations then too, to share knowledge and ideas. As part of one of those programs, 3 judicial students came to Britain from your homeland, the Empire of Japan.
Oh! That was 16 years ago, then one of them could have been my father.
Yeah, Mikotoba. Of course. I remember Dr. Mikotoba well.
I had no idea.
I was a minor at the time, training at the prosecutor's office. One day, Clint introduced me to the 3 visiting Nipponese.
So you actually met my father?
Mikotoba, Jigoku, and a 3rd person, right? Asogi, I believe? Probably an Asogi, right? He and his colleagues were polite and amicable. They were adept at the work and its acting in their standards. It was my first encounter with the Nipponese spirit, and it made a very great impression upon me. But 6 years later, that's when it happened. The investigation was going nowhere. There were no suspects even, just an ever-growing list of victims. And in the end, my brother became one of them. The last, in fact, before the case was finally resolved. I'm so sorry, Lord Van Zeeks. Truly. Clint was always ready to put his life on the line for justice anyway. So he wouldn't have wanted it any other way. He lost his life to the killer, but it was his victory in the end. For me personally, though, it was a great loss. I found myself in a very dark place case indeed. When I finally found out the killer's identity, the reason why no one had been able to catch the man sooner ceased to be such a mystery. He'd been hiding in plain sight all the time. Plain sight? Are you aware of political events 10 years ago? What appeared of extremely sensitive diplomacy between the British and Japanese empires. A new treaty was being forged, I think. Correct. The Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation was being concluded. The leaders of both countries were deep in extensive political discussions. Which is why this particular killer's appearance in court was conducted as a closed trial. If the British public had known the identity of the killer, not only would the treaty have been in jeopardy, our two nations could have very well ended up at war. What? A war between Britain and Japan?
But that would mean... Oh my! You mean to say the professor was...
When the trial reached its conclusion earlier, I thought to myself, yes, it's time. Time for you to come face to face with this hideous monster. I borrowed the key for the mask from the proprietress of the Waxwork Museum. So see for yourselves now. Confirm it with your own eyes. The truth that's been hidden this past decade.
That's the professor?
Yes, that's him.
Until now, the thought never even crossed my mind. That the mass murderer whose crimes shook Britain as never before.
He looks very much like Van Zieks. What?
Was Japanese.
Wait a minute. That face. I feel as though I've seen it somewhere. It's strangely familiar.
It's not me to tell, but obviously. Kazuma, what are you doing?
Father.
Yeah, it was. Wow, okay. It wasn't a Soki. How do I keep calling these twists?
What? Father?
I promise, I've never played this game before.
Kazuma!
I called it. Again.
My best friend, Kazuma Asogi. After a whole year, finally his memories returned. As he stood there before me, Ryunosuke. Hello again. My friend.
Kazuma-sama!
Judicial Assistant Mikotoba.
It's been a very long road. Thank you. Thank you for guiding my friend here when I could not.
It was an honor.
Do you want your katana back?
I knew you wouldn't die that easily. Kazuma.
I mean, I don't know. His neck was broken according to the coroner report, but I guess that could have been.
I owe you thanks
too.
too. For taking good care of that in my absence.
Oh,
The sword, obviously.
Karuma. The great blade of the Asogi clan. Passed down through the generations. When we left Japan, this sword was at my friend's side. The Japanese man's katana is his soul, and he couldn't be parted from it. But then, when the incident happened,
On the SS Buria.
it was Susato-san's wish that I inherit the sword. And I've kept it with me ever since, along with my memories of the friendship we shared. With this by my side, I always felt that you were watching over me somehow.
I've made it. At last. Father.
Are you saying... Surely not. You mean, you knew all this time? I'm looking at it. But... I still can't believe it. This mass murderer is Kazuma's father.
I really wish you wouldn't have done that, Kazuma.
Kazuma-sama.
I hope he realizes that he's gonna have to pay for that. Also,
Ryunosuke,
why does he have two? You know, he has two swords.
we have
now.
much to talk about. But now is not the time. I'll be seeing you.
That's all Kazuma said. Before he turned and left us there, in the courtroom.
So, he's the living after image of the man who took my brother's life, is he? Yes, Kazuma Asogi, my best friend. 3 months ago, when Lord Strongheart introduced us, I had an inkling there was something there, some connection. But why did Lord Strongheart do that? Why did he make Kazuma Lord Van Zeke's apprentice? And when he was suffering amnesia, too. The man was apprehended, even executed. But his legacy just won't die. That's the sad truth. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I thank you for meeting with me as I asked. They couldn't have shelled another couple of bucks out for the rest of the scene to be voiced. 10 years ago,
My grandmother took me to the railway station. We were there to meet my father from the train for me. It was the first time I'd ever seen him.
Poor Susato-san. All this is tied up with painful memories for her, too. I just never talked about this with me before, though.
It took time to adjust having father around, but just when I was starting to get used to it, he called me into his study one day. He told me that a great friend of his had passed away in London, and that the friend had left behind a son, a boy 7 years my senior. Father told me the boy had made a promise to his late father, so he was studying to become a defense lawyer. I wanted to help, so I studied to become a qualified judicial assistant. As I'm sure you've worked out, that young man's name was Kazuma Asugi. So you see, that's how he and I met.
For a brief moment, my great friend had returned, only to disappear again all too soon. But in that fleeting encounter, something stirred. Something that had been dormant for a long time. As if great wheels had been set in motion, I could almost hear them creaking into life. In some ways, it was the end of a chapter, but in many, it was the start of a new one.
End. Alright, that's gonna also be the end of the stream. Not certain if we'll be doing a stream tomorrow just yet. Twisted Karma and just last bout. Okay. I thought that said Karuma at first. I was like, huh, the sword? But no. Not really sure if we're gonna have a stream tomorrow. Considering my current real life situation. But again, that's just gonna be like a stay tuned to Twitter. If something happens, then I will let people. Then I will send out a tweet. But for now, I guess same time as usual tomorrow, probably with more Golden Sun Lost Age. Yeah, I will see you all then. Later.